It's my turn to start. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Atcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your cursed speech user, Soup.
And I'm your international ballerina star disguised as a ninja, Gozaru, Renu.
This week, AT stands for Absolute Territory, because we'll be wrapping up the fall 2020 season. But before we get into that, what have we been up to? It's been quite a while. It has been at least a month, I think, since we last recorded, because we recorded that last episode quite far in advance.
We did, and now we've had a whole slew of holidays.
We seem to have had an entire year passing between that point and now, and I don't even mean that in the kind of like joking way that people do. It's like, oh, I'll see you next year.
See you next year.
Oh, it's been years since I've seen you. Right? No, I mean, literally, the amount of things that have happened since we recorded that episode to now could be the event sort of timeline for an entire year of things.
Yeah, it feels like we, as a public, have aged a year within the course of a month.
Yeah, we thought we were entering 2021 like a year older, a year wiser, but instead we entered 2021 and we aged like 10 years. We were like, oh my god. And it has only gotten more disastrous since. It kind of feels like when you finish like a really hard video game and you're like, yay, I did it. And then they release the DLC for that game and you're like, well, it can't be that bad. And you enter it and it's like 8 times harder and you're like, oh no.
Well, that makes it sound like we opted into it, right? Like the DLC, you like kind of like.
Okay, no, yeah, you're right. It's like they
Yeah.
patched in another secret ending. It's like Persona 4 Golden, where they're like, by the way, here's your super secret final ending.
And then the hard dungeon and the hard boss and everything that comes with it.
And then you fight God.
Yeah.
Yep, it's an important part of every JRPG, and part of growing up really is to fight and kill God, attack and dethrone God. So yeah, what have you been up to, Renu?
So I spent the holidays driving 15 and a half hours to go see my folks. Yeah, halfway across our wonderful country, and yeah, it was a lot of fun to go see them. We had a very small family gathering. Half our family, stayed home for obvious reasons, and then I just wanted to, see my parents and stuff like that since it's been over a year since I've seen family. So that was really nice, and I got to see some friends as well. We all stayed safe, wearing masks and socially distancing, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah, it was good. Aside from cozy family friend time, I played a lot of games.
Nice.
I got a Switch for myself for Christmas.
Ooh, I didn't know you didn't have one.
Yeah, I didn't have one, and so then I asked my friends like if they wanted to get me a Christmas gift to get me some games, and so they did.
Nice.
And yeah, so they got me Animal Crossing New Horizons and Pokemon Sword. So those have been really great. It's my first time playing an Animal Crossing game. So
nice.
It's been a whole experience. Yeah, I've been playing it like every day since then.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like a very like Renu kind of game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's like very like your speed.
Yes. Well, some of it is like a bit too like I don't want to say slow, but it's like a little bit too tedious, certain things that could be shored up,
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I've played a couple of Animal Crossing games in my day, and sometimes the progression is like a little bit like it's a bit much because some of the things require you to like literally wait for the next day, and you're like, I don't wanna.
Right, you're right. I just want to play the game, and there is of course
Yeah.
the intentionality of the game developers being like, we only want you to play a little bit every day, and we keep it at this slow pace for a reason, and make things tedious for a reason, and I don't know if I agree with it or not, but either way, it's a successful game, and I've been enjoying it. So
nice.
Yeah, I've played like I think an hour or two of Pokemon Sword, and that's been pretty nice so far. Like, obviously haven't delved super into it, but like it looks good. Yeah.
That's I remember when I picked up Pokemon Sword upon launch, because I mean it's very funny kind of like reminiscing about it now, but like you and I sort of know each other because of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so every time a new one comes out, I'm like, ooh, a Pokemon game. And like legitimately at this point in my life, I do still have like way too much knowledge about like Pokemon and like all the kind of weird intricacies about Pokemon. And but at this point the knowledge is kind of like fading as I'm like kind of gradually becoming an adult. So like sometimes I will like it will take me a little bit to be able to like recall what a Pokemon's name is, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting old. I don't know what a Piplup is anymore. Like how am I gonna survive if I don't have the knowledge of Bidoof stored in my head at all times?
Dude, I know I'm old because I only know like maybe a quarter of the Pokemon that exist.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, still, I will play everyone that comes out.
Nice.
Mind you, because I mean, you gotta like it's. every time one comes out, I like get sucked into it for like a week, and then I'm like, cool, that was like really fun. It was not like as kind of somebody who has grown up and has tastes that have matured into a very specific kind of thing that I want out of like a game. Sometimes the story can be a little disappointing, which is kind of sad because they put a little bit more story into every single one, but it's like so slow and it's never as much as you want. So you're like, but it's not, that's not the point of it. So like you still enjoy it along the way because you're like, oh, I'm gonna make a team of my cool favorite Pokemans and go on my journey. And that kind of stuff is fun. There's like an element of like role playing to it that I do really enjoy. I like that they add a lot of character customization every time. And yeah, I mean honestly, I've enjoyed every Pokemon game that's come out. I think probably the what was it, 5th gen? I think 5th gen had the best story overall, but each one has been pretty fun. How is your experience been? You're only like an hour in. I think that's still in like the tutorial zone, basically. Right?
I just, I guess, unlocked the Dynamax, whatever, the one where you bigify your Pokemon. Yeah. So I just, I guess, unlocked that possibility, and so now I can go to like campgrounds or whatever and do that. But I haven't obviously gotten into it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting that they introduce a new like kind of like gimmick every generation. I think my favorite is still Mega Evolution though. I think that was still the most interesting one. Yeah. Cuz the Dynamax one is like cool cuz it's like, ooh, big Pokemon, but like there's kind of a lot of different issues with the way that it's implemented that are really annoying, and it's exacerbated by the fact that like Nintendo's like Pokemon specifically has always had the worst online functionality of any video game I've ever played. And like this is coming from somebody who like fiddled with like Dark Souls's online compatibility features, because like 1 and 2 have really bad online functionality, but like Pokemon is somehow worse.
I have thankfully, I guess, not delved super deeply into the Pokemon online features, and so I haven't really noticed, but I can definitely see why.
Well, it was annoying because when you fight the like Dynamax Pokemon in like the wild, they're like raids, so like you have to have like a bunch of people with you. But the thing is, if you don't have people with you, they'll put NPCs in, but the NPCs are really, really bad.
Sure.
So
yeah.
you're and that wouldn't be a problem otherwise, because you're like, well, that's fine. My Pokemon is like, strong enough. Except if too many of them get knocked out, you end the raid. Like you raid wipe. So like if I think like 2 or 3 Pokemon get fainted, you raid wipe.
Oh my god!
So it's like a matter of like making sure that either you can like burst this thing down before it kills your friends, or like trying to keep them alive long enough for them to do anything. And it's, oh god, it's so much.
What? That's so stressful and dumb.
Yeah,
it's not even your fault if you lose.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I will say I also don't like the way like Gigantamax was implemented, because it's implemented in a way where only certain Pokemon can have Gigantamax forms, right? The like special Dynamax forms.
Yeah.
And they're really cool, but you can't like transfer it to anybody. That's not an ability that you can like give to somebody. To one of your Pokemon, like it was like Mega Evolution, where you could just give them like the Mega Rock, and then you can Mega Evolution them, right?
Right.
For Gigantamax, it's like it's innate to the Pokemon, so you have to catch a Gigantamax Pokemon, which is kind of annoying, because you're like, well, I like raised this Pokemon from like level 2. I want to make it bigify and cool. Why can't it be bigified cool?
Yeah.
It just feels like a kind of a kick in the teeth, and I don't think it was implemented very well. Anyway, that's my rant about Gigantamax aside.
Sure. No, I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying your Switch.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I really like it. I also tried out the Monster Hunter Rise demo. This past Friday, and I played it with some people on stream because it has online functionality already. And yeah, it's fun. I think I'm looking forward to when it actually releases. I think in March.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you played Monster Hunter?
I have not played a massive amount of Monster Hunter. I played a little bit of like the 3DS demo, but that was kind of awful, because like Monster Hunter really is a game meant to be played with two joysticks, and the 3DS only had one. I will say that I think it's one of those games that I've always wanted to play, because it's like such a big thing in Japan, and like all of the anime that you watch is like, oh yeah, like the game that people are always playing is always fucking Monster Hunter, right? So it looks like fun, but I on kind of, I guess, a similar spectrum. It looks like it feels a lot like funnily enough, it looks like it feels a lot like Dark Souls in how it plays. And how like all of the weapons have like kind of this like very specific like move set and weight to them. And I have been playing a lot of Dark Souls recently, and I think Monster Hunter would be kind of a fun, cool thing to do, but it's also like money. And like I would want to convince my friends to get it also, and they would have to get it, and then we'd have to play together.
I mean, I would say, I think I guess because you enjoy Dark Souls, I mean, this might be like a nice little tangent of that, right? Because you're fighting monsters specifically, and it's a lighter aesthetic, I guess. But yeah, the multiplayer is a lot of fun. You can have a max of 4 people in your crew, including yourself. Yeah. I mean, if you end up getting into it, I'll play with you.
Thanks, Renu.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will, but
yeah. I think it's definitely worth a shot. If you want, well, I don't know. The demo is kind of a little bit hard to get into because it doesn't explain any of the weapon stuff to you, but it does explain some of their new features. One of which is you can actually ride the monsters now.
Oh my god.
It's insane.
What?
It is like the most exciting thing, aside from the fact that not only can you've always been able to have like a cat companion, right, called a palico. Well, I don't know if you've always been able to, but that's been a thing. But now this time you can also have a doggo companion. and it's the best.
Nice.
So you can have dog, you can have cat, and you can ride monster. That's the big new stuff.
Roll up with the squad.
The squad, exactly.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's been fun. I also played Phasmophobia for the first time. Yeah. I know, that's definitely your type of game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely my type of game, in that it's extremely not at all, even a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been getting carried by my friends who have been playing it for weeks now. But yeah, they've been teaching me really well, and so I've slowly been picking up on all the mechanics and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, and the fact that it's made by a singular dude is really quite astonishing. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I to this day actually know very, very little about Phasmophobia whatsoever, because I don't consume any sort of content about it. Even though a lot of people that I follow play it, I just don't really watch any of it because I don't like scary things.
I mean, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know I don't know what the premise of the game is.
Oh, really? Okay, I can tell you that. It's about, you are basically you work for ghost hunters, essentially, like people who go in and exorcise ghosts, but you are the kind of like the scouting team, where you go in and you determine what kind of ghost it is and you report back on it. And so you have a whole bunch of like ghost detection devices to try and figure out what kind of ghost it is based on whatever clues you're able to extrapolate from the encounter that you have with it. So
okay.
you party up with, some of your homies, and you go to the location, and you guys can equip different types of items, like a thermometer to detect if the temperature drops, which is a clue that the ghost haunts that specific room, or cameras, motion sensors, that kind of thing, to detect the movement of the ghost. And so sometimes the ghosts are pretty chill, sometimes they're really shy, sometimes they're trying to kill you at every, at every second. And so it's a lot of just kind of there's a little bit of like mystery solving, so that you can try and figure out what kind of ghost it is, but otherwise there's a survival element to it too. Obviously you don't want to get killed by the ghost.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to just kind of like hop in and do some matches with your friends and hop out kind of deal. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will say it's kind of been interesting seeing the, like, I wouldn't say rise, because there's not like that many like really big kind of notable ones, but like the fact that there are multiplayer games, multiplayer horror games, because I feel like a lot of horror games traditionally have been derived from the fact that you are alone, and that there's like no one to help you. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I do think that it is remarkable that they've been able to develop a horror game that you can play with your friends and still legitimately be scared. Because it's so easy in a horror game or any kind of multiplayer situation like this to just goof around and not take anything seriously, and therefore every potentially fearful encounter you have is just, it's just made fun of, right? And none of the actual weight of it settles in. But this game, like, it legitimately gets spooky. So I think that's really, really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Aside from that, in terms of what I've been watching while I game a whole lot, I've been making my way through Eyeshield 21.
Oh my god.
I am over... hang on, let me see. I'm on episode 97.
So, hold on. I did not know that there was this much Eyeshield 21 anime.
Really? I thought you watched it.
No. Well, okay, I've read a bit of the manga, but I've never watched the anime. I didn't even know there was an anime, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
That's astounding.
there is an anime, and I as I was watching it, I was like, man, the end credits for this anime look really good. Like, the art is amazing. And so I looked it up because I completely forgot who the artist was. And of course it's Yusuke Murata.
I was gonna say, did you forget?
I completely forgot. And I just, like, as soon as I saw his name, I was I was gone. I was so upset because I was like, of course it's freaking Yusuke Murata.
Of course it's Yusuke Murata. I feel like Aishil 21 was where Murata really got like well known as like the guy who just makes like ridiculously detailed, amazing art. Like like the color spreads for Aishil 21 I think still stand as some of the most like gorgeous color spreads of any manga just ever.
Yeah, like, you can tell like during the anime when there's like a particularly well rendered like still shot or something here and there, you can tell that they just pulled it directly from the manga.
yeah. Well, it's really funny because like people have pointed out that if you like layer the pages of some of the One Punch Man manga together, they almost animate better than the anime itself because they're so dynamic.
I know, it's so amazing. And so that's why, because when you're watching the anime, you don't really, as things are moving along, like they definitely, you know, it's an anime pretty typical of that time, I'd say, you know, that it was developed. Right. And so you don't really notice until you see some of the still shots and you're like, wow, these are really good. And so that's why it took me a while to just kind of like be like, okay, I need to look up who this is because I feel like I know them.
Yeah. I think as far as kind of manga goes, you will not find, I think, someone with a better kind of understanding of like visual space and like three-dimensional space and perspective. And can consistently crank out like super high quality pages than Yusuke Murata. I have no idea how he does it. I don't know if he does anything other than just make manga, right? I don't know how he has time to do anything.
Yeah, I don't either. The man is a complete mystery. And yet, we are blessed with everything that he produces, I guess.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I might go back and read the manga and like watch the anime and stuff, but yeah, I never finished Aishil 21. It was one of those things where I would read it like kind of sporadically on and off when it was in like Shonen Jump, right? When you could still buy Shonen Jump in grocery stores.
Yeah,
that was sort of my experience with it. But like, yeah, Yusuke Murata, man, what a legend.
What a goddamn living legend.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that's it. I don't want to take up too much more time anyway.
So I took a trip to Oregon to spend time with my partner for the holiday season. I flew in at kind of the nice in-between point when nobody's really traveling between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Nice. And then I just kind of rode out the holiday wave and I flew back kind of as soon as things calmed down a little bit, which it's kind of a funny thing to say, you know, kind of in regards to the early sort of weeks of 2021, considering, you know, we had a coup attempt halfway. Anyway. So just an absolutely normal week in our living hellscape, but I obviously don't want to I don't want to dwell on it too much because it's you know, it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, that's just so depressing. Like, how do I even begin to talk about this? And like, I suspect that, you know, you're probably sick of hearing about it too. So anyway, I flew back and have kind of just been sitting here, recovering, I guess. Flying always takes a lot out of me.
Oh yeah, traveling and vacation always.
But it's also just like more so because it's so stressful being in like crowded spaces nowadays. So like now what used to like make you like tired makes you just fucking exhausted for like a week. But yeah, I mean, I tried to be as safe as possible. You know, I wore 2 masks. I didn't touch anything or speak to anybody. And so far, it seems like I'm okay, but we'll see. It has not been 2 weeks since I've been back, so I'm just sort of staying in at home. And I mean, as if I go outside anyway. I don't really, but um, over the sort of holiday season, I did all the kind of normal things you do. You stay inside and cuddle under the blankets because it's fucking cold. Oregon gets much colder than California does. I will say. Right? It was like 50, 60 degrees here, and then like in Oregon it was like 30. And I was like, give me the sun. Where is the sun? But it was raining a lot, which is nice because I like the rain, and in California you don't really get to see it anymore. So I had a nice rainy little vacation. I got to see my son Philip.
The son.
He's getting so big now. He's so big. He is so Renu, I don't remember if I told you about this during my time there, but he is I think he's like 9 or 10 months old at this point, and
he's big.
He's like 11 pounds.
He's big.
He's so big. He's so chunky. And we're not like
I remember the last time you showed me him, he was like, maybe like the size of your arm, like
he was itty bitty. Itty bitty. I mean, he was the biggest one in his litter, but still he was pretty small. And and now he's super big, and it's not like we were underfeeding him or anything. In fact, we weren't overfeeding him, right? In fact, we've actually found out when we went to the vet that we were underfeeding him, right? We weren't feeding him enough food. So he just got that big naturally.
But I thought he was because the last time we talked, I thought you had to like put him on a diet or something like that. Like,
oh yeah, so this is a thing that happened, and this was very stressful. But so as my hair has been getting longer, I've been having to tie it back and like clip it back with like hair clips and stuff. And Philip had one in his mouth, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, please, my son, drop that, please. And I tried to get out of his mouth, and he fucking bolted. And we couldn't find it, so we had to assume he ate it. And we were like, oh, fuck. Jesus Christ. So we took him to the vet, and he got his x-rays, and they were like, well, there's not a hair clip in there, but there is a hair tie in there. And we're like, what? But we kind of suspected that he might have eaten a hair tie because he was also munching on a hair tie.
And my god.
It was like snapped in half, and we were like, this cannot be the whole hair tie. He must have eaten some of it.
My god.
A couple of days before I got there, he had already eaten half a hair tie and then thrown it up. So, he was already kind of in trouble.
Philip.
And then we were like, oh shit, okay. So the vet was like, okay, well, come back in the morning. We'll just like don't feed him, like starve him for a day, and then we can x-ray him again to see if it's like passing, right? And we went back and it was not. So they were like, well, okay, we're gonna have to do an endoscopy probably. So they went in and they got it. They got it out there, very safe. A very standard procedure. They got it out real nice, and it was very clean operation, like absolutely nothing. They were like, good. Yeah, he but then they showed us what the hair tie looked like, and it looked like a full hair tie. So we have to assume he ate a third hair tie.
Oh my god.
This was a third hair tie he had eaten at some point, and it was so like long that it just wasn't passing because it was a full hair tie. And we're like, my son, you're causing us so much stress.
Stop! Oh my god!
And the vet and the nurse told us like, okay, well, so we had to like give him anesthesia and stuff. He might be a little loopy. He might not be as energetic for a little bit. He might not have an appetite. And we brought him back home, and he was immediately running around and eating food. So like I don't know, man. This cat is invincible. I'm convinced. He's so strong. He's so beefy.
You just have to keep the hair ties out of his reach.
We just have to keep anything edible and inedible out of reach. Anything small enough to fit in his mouth, really.
Right. I mean, he is a child, so yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a very like exciting, stressful adventure, but so it goes, really.
Yeah.
So it goes. That's how it be when you're looking after a child. But anyway, he's perfectly fine. He's very healthy and nice. They also they weighed him when we brought him in to get X-rayed and endoscopy, and they were like, yeah, he's like 11 pounds. He's like 10.92 pounds.
Oh my god.
So we're like, Jesus Christ.
Oh my word.
And they didn't remark upon anything. Like, they didn't tell us, like, oh, he's, like, obese. No. They're like, he's just big. Like, he's healthy. He's just big. I mean, he's an orange cat. So, like, I mean, they get bigger, apparently, just, like, naturally. But, anyway, that was our sort of stressful vacation adventure. Oh, Philip, my son, that was, one of the most kind of, like, astounding things that happened. And then I got home to Bark, who doesn't eat anything. It's so mercifully chill with Bark because he doesn't eat anything except for food. He only wants to eat food.
The fact that they're so different, despite both being orange.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Bark is also, like, at least 10 years old. He's, like, an old man cat.
Yeah.
Like, he's in his, like, twilight years. He's, like...
We don't know what Bark was like when he was a youngin'.
He might have been a disaster. But, I mean, he seems raised very well. He seems like a very proper cat. Like, he has all the manners. And I hope they get along when Philip comes over.
Oh yeah, no, Bark is gonna teach him some manners, but every cat that we've come across, at least, like around 8 to 9 months is, like, you know, it can be a pretty tough time, but like when they cross that year threshold, the I guess, like, post puberty or whatever, they mellow out quite a bit.
I hope Philip mellows out a little bit. Because he is quite the disaster right now. Anyway. In other news, I had my birthday on the 3rd.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Thank you. I am officially 24 years old, which you know, as in accordance to the old blood pacts, nobody likes you when you're 23. So now people are obligated to like me again now that I'm 24.
I've never heard of this.
Oh, it's the oh shit, what is it? Is it Sum 41 or Blink 182? It's one of the number bands, but they have a song that's called What's My Age Again? I think it's Blink 182.
Okay.
It is Blink 182. I knew it was one of the number bands. Okay.
Right.
But one of the lyrics is nobody likes you when you're 23. So that was in my Twitter bio for the entire time that I was 23 years old. But now that I'm 24, people are morally obligated to like me again. So
they better.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a nice chill birthday.
Nice.
I stayed in and I had a little whiskey, which is nice.
Ooh.
Love me some whiskey. And then I had a really good time. We ate some food and, you know, I think we got Korean fried chicken, which was really nice. I read a lot of manga on my birthday. Actually, that entire week I read a lot of manga. I watched and read the entirety of Demon Slayer. Because I don't know, I was just really feeling like rewatching Demon Slayer, and it absolutely fucking slaps.
Yay.
The manga is really good too. People kind of like deride the manga for not looking as pretty as the anime, but to be honest, I think people don't give it enough credit. I think it's really well done. Anyway, I read the entirety of I caught up on a lot of manga. I caught up on Dr. Stone, Spy X Family. I finished Haikyuu. I read the entirety of Chainsaw Man.
Okay.
By the way, Chainsaw Man is really, really good. And I think it's getting an anime, so that's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty cool. I don't know how much it's gonna be your thing, because there is a lot of there's a lot of chainsawing, a lot of blood, a lot of people getting chainsawed. Let me tell you.
Well, if you can get through it.
Yeah, it's not a scary manga. It's just lots of gore.
Okay.
But it's, honestly, it's like enough gore to the point where it gets absurd. It's like Hellsing in that respect.
Okay. And, I liked Hellsing though. Okay.
Yeah. Then I think it'll be fine then. And I do think that there is like a really like very I think we could do an entire episode about Chainsaw Man. I would love to do an entire episode about Chainsaw Man.
All right. Yeah.
Because it's there's a lot inside the kind of like hyper violent absurdity that is like very cool.
Okay.
Emotionally and thematically, because it's kind of like about well, it's about a lot of things, but I'll touch on it later when we start talking about anime. But like it's one of those it's one of those manga recently that has come out with the premise that like there's like the manifestations of like negative human emotion, which are you know the devils, and you know it's about like fighting in them and stuff, kind of. There's a lot of very complicated stuff inside Chainsaw Man that I really want to unpack in a full episode, so I'm not going to touch on it now. Anyway, I'm going to put a pin in that one for much later. When I got back home, my parents had bought an espresso machine, which is very funny.
Good for them.
So I've been learning how to use it. I've never made espresso before, but it's like a full like 9-bar espresso machine. And I guess they got it for themselves for Christmas. And
That's nice.
It's very nice actually. It's a neat little machine. I've sort of been tinkering with it to make sure that I can make the espresso good. Which has been kind of a struggle, to be honest. Like I've had problems with like, you know, pushing down too hard on the puck so that the coffee doesn't like, you know, push through. I've had problems with it just like not. I've had a lot of issues, but I think I'm finally at a point where I can make decent espresso, which is.
I didn't know it was so finicky.
Yeah, I mean it is because like espresso is like first of all you're dealing with a pressure machine. Like you need pressure to shoot steam through the filter, and that's how you make espresso. And you need 9 bars, which is like 9 sort of atmospheres worth of pressure. Which is, you know, not all machines are capable of doing that. And if you want to get a machine capable of doing that, you're going to have to shell out quite a couple hundreds of dollars.
Sure.
So that your machine doesn't explode in your face. There are lever operated ones that are much, much cheaper and will get you good espresso. Like I think I can't remember the company off the top of my head, but there's some good ones. But like if you want a machine to do it for you, like you need to shell out at least $400. Like there's kind of no negotiating that.
Right.
Anything under that is not going to really get you like espresso. But then you have to kind of deal with like the grind size. So like your coffee has to be like fine enough that it's you know, the water can pass through, but also not too coarse so that you can actually get some of the flavor out of it, but also not too fine, because if it becomes dust, then it has the exact problem where it just won't go through anymore and it might clog up the holes. So, but as long as you can get the grind okay, the next sort of thing is you have to make the puck, which is like, you put the coffee in the filter and then you like tamp it down with like this little like stamp looking thing. And you have to put the right amount of pressure on to like condense it just enough that it like passes through perfect. Anyway, it's been a process of trial and error the past couple days.
So the machine doesn't do all that stuff for you?
No. Espresso machines are wonderfully medieval in that sense, I suppose I should say.
You spend hundreds of dollars and it doesn't even do that stuff for you, so you could still make a bad cup of espresso.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those things where if you're making espresso, you just kind of have to put in the effort to like learn how to make the puck. And then it's not too hard, honestly, and it's not like you're going to get like a disastrous cup of coffee. It's just like it just means that you're just gonna have to wait a bit for the like water to drain out slowly, and then like you take the grounds out and you just try again. It's honestly not that big of a deal. Because it's I mean it's not gonna break or anything unless you do something really bad to it.
Sure.
But anyway, so that's what I've been doing past couple days since I've been back. I've been testing out the espresso machine. The steam wand on that machine is pretty good. It is a Breville Bambino Plus, if you were wondering. But wonderful little machine. The steam wand is really good. It makes like nice foamy milk.
Ooh.
But we don't have any milk in the house, so I have to go buy milk
to steam it.
Yeah, to steam it. I've been doing that. I have been petting the cat, doing a lot of sleeping and sleeping off my my flight exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I have been playing a lot of Dark Souls. I've been doing a lot of streaming recently. Like pretty much every night or so. Depending on when the peanut gallery is available, which is what my friends call themselves when they watch me play Dark Souls on stream.
That's cute.
And yeah, yesterday I for some reason played for 10 hours straight.
Jeez.
Yeah. I played for 10 hours straight, and I basically completed the final boss of Dark Souls 2, which is in Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, which is like the remake of Dark Souls 2. There is the final boss is actually 3 or 4 different bosses technically. So it's like basically you defeat the Throne Watcher and Defender, and it's like a double boss. So like you have to defeat both of them. But if you defeat one of them too early, they'll full heal because you have to defeat both of them at the same time. Essentially, the window is pretty generous. You have about a minute, but like still, you do not want to only focus one and then find that out later, because I did, and that was a mistake.
Oh no!
So. But then after you defeat the Throne Watcher and Defender, you have to defeat Queen Nishandra, who appears right in the same fucking boss room. And then after you defeat Queen Nishandra, you have to defeat Aldia, the Scholar of the First Sin, who appears in the same room. And you don't get a break between any of these.
So it's not a final boss. It is a final boss gauntlet.
Pretty much, honestly. Which is like, I mean, to be fair, Aldia is an optional boss that only appears if you defeated a different optional boss, which I did for reasons of I just want to make the game harder for me, I guess, always.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, make a difficult game more difficult for you. You know, you might as well just.
And then I beat 2 out of 3 of the DLCs. So I did Crown of the Sunken King and Crown of the Old Iron King. And I only have one left, which is Crown of the Ivory King, and I'm gonna complete that probably tonight. And then I will be done with Dark Souls 2, and then I can start Dark Souls 3.
Wow, you are on a roll.
Yeah, I am. My current plan is to complete Dark Souls 2 and 3, and then play my way through Yakuza Kiwami 2, and then I think more or less that should be around the time when the other 3 Yakuza games release on PC.
Ooh, that'll be good.
So that I can play those 3 games.
Yeah.
Probably not all in a row, because playing Yakuza games back to back gets exhausting. Each Yakuza game is quite a lot. I think you can play maybe max 2 in a row before you're like, I'm all Yakuza out for a little bit. But I'm gonna play through Yakuza Kiwami 2. And then my plan is probably to play like, I don't know, maybe some games I just have lined up in my Steam library. Maybe I'll play through Nier Automata, because I haven't played through that in a couple years. And I love that game, but I don't know. Who's to say, really? But I've been doing that, and that's been really fun. I've been enjoying that a lot. Anyway, we have been catching up for about 45 minutes, so
we had a whole month.
We had a whole month to talk about. Why don't we start talking about anime? Which is actually, I will say, it's okay that we talked this much, because we really did not watch a lot of anime.
We didn't.
I've looking back over this list, we really did not watch that much anime.
It's all right.
All right. So let's start by talking about Maou-Jou de Oyasumi, because I think I have more to say about Jujutsu Kaisen, so I want to save it for a little bit later. Maou-Jou de Oyasumi, or Sleepy Princess in the Demon King's Castle, I think is the English title, is about a princess who gets kidnapped by the Demon Lord, which is a setup that is very common in Japanese RPGs. It's the classic like Dragon Quest sort of setup. But the princess is an absolute menace. And all she wants to do is sleep all day, and the only and like nothing will stand between her and a good night's rest, which is to say she will terrorize the rest of the castle in order to gather enough ingredients to craft like better beds and stuff. And this is a joy to watch. I love this show.
It is so funny. It is very cute and also like very terrifying. but it all comes together in a very funny way.
It's this is one of those shows that is simultaneously like very funny, very like kind of like cozy and comfy, and also just like super chaotic, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of dark humor, but like not too dark, you know?
Dark, but not too dark. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely they play on the church where you revive, so people definitely do die and then come back to life. But it's okay because they don't die forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this princess basically terrorizes the rest of the castle for like 13 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of watch as she gets up to different hijinks, like killing bedsheet ghosts so that she can make bed sheets, or just killing an ice golem man so that she can have ice in her room in the summertime. and all kinds of stuff like that. Honestly, this is one of those like fantasy shows that plays kind of riffs off of its like fantasy setting in a very like fun, amusing, whimsical way. And I very, very much would recommend this for anybody who just like needs like something fun to watch. Like, it's an absolute joy. And it's very cute actually.
Yes.
Because you just like, nice. I watch an episode and I'm like, I want to take a nap now.
I know, me too. I'm like,
it just like it makes you want to nap so bad.
Exactly, it makes you want to go sleep.
You're like, nappy. Yeah. I read the manga for this, which is why we started watching it. But the anime is really good too. Like the animation is, the comedic timing, delicious. Voice acting, wonderful.
Yes. Yep.
Chef's kiss, delicious and tasty. Highly recommend Maou-Jou de Oyasumi.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very fun.
It's very much up my alley, in terms of like all the things that it does, right? It's like, kind of slice of lifey, kind of fantasy, very chaotic, lots of fun stuff. And then you get nice little like moments of like, oh, they're friends, nice. Which I always enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I would agree.
On that note, let's talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, which is kind of like the most recent like kind of Shonen Jump like mainstay, I suppose you could call it. It is very good. I will say. It's very shonen. But I will say I do think that shonen is becoming like kind of it gradually has started to become much more interesting ever since kind of the big three shonen have ended, or not ended, but two of the three, right? Because One Piece will never die, but like One Piece is gonna go on eternally. But Naruto and Bleach have ended their respective runs, and of course we have stuff like Boruto and Burn the Witch going, but it's not really the same. They don't have the same kind of like clout, I guess you could say. They don't have the same like gravitas and pull. But ever since then, shonen has been in a very interesting space where you have My Hero Academia with all of the stuff that it's about, which I've kind of talked about here and like on the podcast and sort of on Twitter about how it's kind of like, I mean, it's like when you have superhero fiction, you're like, cool, superhero fiction, right? Because it's like a very like interesting way of making your property about manifesting evil in the world so that you can defeat it, which is cool. But at the same time, My Hero Academia has kind of this very specific brand of superheroism as part of like kind of a state body, where you're like, well, you're basically sending children off to do war for you, which is cool, I guess. Right? So that's interesting, and I will say, like, to its credit, I haven't read a lot of the later chapters, so maybe they do touch on it, because they might, it might try to address its own premises. But I do have problems with kind of the way that it presents villains and villainy and how it does that, because I think it was really cool when they had like Stain as a villain, be like, yeah, do villain stuff, and people were like, hey, that's kind of cool, right? Because like that's I liked Stain as a villain because he basically addresses what systemically is kind of the problem with the hero system. And like the villains who arise out of that are also people who are like, yeah, time to become villains. Which like is kind of an accidentally very apt sort of lens into what we see kind of nowadays with our government coup and all that. But like, you know, and I've talked about it sort of at length, so I won't really continue much further. But then you have Demon Slayer, which I think is probably the best shonen. And I will say, I think some people have complained that Demon Slayer is a little too short. I don't necessarily agree. I think it is exactly as long as it needs to be. I appreciate when a story knows when to end. And I think it does a lot of kind of justice at the end to basically say like, well, like this is, you know, this is like what these people fought for. It's to make a more peaceful society, and they you know, have their like descendants get to live like kind of a happy life, and they get like reincarnated. It's very cool. But like it's very nice and gratifying. It's kind of like when you have a coffee shop AU, but like it's the canon ending of the series. But like I like Demon Slayer a lot because the kind of core thesis of Demon Slayer is about like kindness and compassion, right? Like the fact that because like wisteria in sort of Japanese like flower symbology represents like, you know, empathy and compassion and love and support. And all of those things are poisonous to demons. They're literally poisonous to demons, who are people who gain power by eating other people. Hey, wait a minute. That's exactly what a billionaire is. So, anyway. But I also think that Demon Slayer's core ethos is very cool because of the way that it kind of bleeds into everything that is in the series. Like all of the fighting styles in the anime are meant to do like one clean sort of like beheading, you know, hit. You're not supposed to like make your opponent suffer or anything, right? It's like, this is mercy, right? And like that's very cool. I like that there is a move in the water breathing style that's literally just, oh, the opponent has given up and wants an end to their suffering. Here is a gentle, painless strike to kill you so that you can be free from your mortal shackle. I think that's very cool. And then you have stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen, which is like Naruto, but way, way more hardcore.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Jujutsu Kaisen to me feels like if Naruto never compromised its like sort of the premise and emotional core of its first two arcs. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, if it went, I guess like it feels a lot darker, right?
It is a lot darker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not just because. Well, not just because people die, right? Because people die in shonen all the time. But the amount of gravity and emotional impact and build-up and payoff that they have is vastly different, I feel like. There is honestly, Jujutsu Kaisen reminds me a lot of why I liked Naruto back in the day, and it doesn't kind of forget why I liked Naruto like halfway through, right? Because like you have because and I will always rail about how good the first couple arcs of Naruto are. Because, you know, I think that the like Zabuza arc is like,
oh my god,
it's just it's unforgettable, right? Because like you have this like hired sword who's just like an enemy, and he's like super strong and evil, and then you realize the real evil is like the corporate overlords behind him, and he's like, wait, shit, this sucks, and he's like, well, what if I kill you? And he's like, well, what if I kill you? And you're like, ah, shit, and then you like. You have to deal with like the gravity of like, you know, both Zabuza and Haku dying, and then like they get to like, you know, reunite in the afterlife, and you're like, damn, dude, that's fucking heavy. Like that's really fucking heavy. Like you really pulled a like, this is definitely a bad guy. This is definitely super a bad guy, and he's like a super menacing villain. But now we're feeling like empathy for him, and like we feel bad because like he's put into this spot, and he now kind of wants to help because he cares about somebody, and then you're like, oh no, he's dead. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. And I think that's a large part of why Naruto was so good at the start, right? Because like you have a lot of grappling with kind of like emotions and trauma, and then it becomes like ninja space battles, which is like okay.
Yeah.
But Jujutsu Kaisen is like if Naruto never really forgot that, right? Like you have, this kid who the power structure above that is ostensibly there to help people, right? The sorcerer kind of schools, but they want him dead, right? They don't want him to be alive. And he has like a demon inside of him, just like the nine-tailed fox. And he can tap into that power to save people, but it has like a very like a powerful cost because like he lets the demon take control of his body. But at the same time, you still have like all of the like really good shonen goodness, right? You have like a main character overcoming adversity. You have somebody with like a good heart and spirit, like doing everything he can to operate within the limitations that he is set within, and still managing to stay like kind throughout. Like I liked this about Demon Slayer, where at the start of the show, and I realized this when I went back and I rewatched it. Like Giyu tells Tanjiro, like you're so kind, but your inaction will get people killed, right?
Right.
Like you can be kind, you don't have to be cold, but you have to be decisive. You can't you can't expect sympathy from your enemies, right? And he spends the entire series never giving up that kindness, even when people tell him not to be kind anymore, because some of the Demon Slayers do tell him that. And in the end, it's really that like kindness and empathy and the love that he holds for his sister that like pretty much like saves the day, right? And Jujutsu Kaisen feels very similarly, where like Yuji is a very kind person to the point of being almost like self-destructive, because he's like hanging on to like the last words of his grandfather, who was like, be helpful to people, like you should try to help people because you're strong, right? And so he does it, and it almost gets him killed. There's a moment where he has to confront his own like fear of death, which is like very cool and not something that like you necessarily see in a lot of shonen anime. You're like, wait, you mean like the protagonist is not just like barreling forward, he's like actually grappling with the fear of death? Interesting. And he comes out stronger for it, and you're like, well, that's very neat.
Yeah, it's a very solid show that I can definitely see why it has such a wide appeal to it, despite how dark its consequences can be with the character actions.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely dark. And it doesn't help that the enemies are basically manifestations of like human fear. So you kind of have like tangible enemies created from intangible things, which and I mentioned this earlier, so I'm gonna pull that pin out. But like this is a thing that I've noticed recently, where like in Demon Slayer, demons basically get stronger with human fear. In Chainsaw Man, devils are the embodiment of human fear, and in Jujutsu Kaisen, the curses are also the embodiment of negative human emotion. And it's very interesting how a lot of very like mainstream shonen shows recently have been about like being able to manifest and address like negative human emotion, right? We're kind of like tacitly acknowledging that the problem right now, like all of our problems right now, are man-made in nature, that it is society and people that are creating these problems, and at the same time it is up to people to solve those problems. It may be that we're staring down the barrel of like civil wars and political unrest and like climate change, and I don't just mean here, but like kind of anywhere with like a really sort of conservative government, because Japan has a really conservative government, which was admittedly implanted there by the American CIA, but that's just how it goes, really. That is That's them feels when you're imperialized by America, huh? And now we are sort of getting a taste for that as well, because we didn't address any of our problems for the last like 300 years. Anyway, Jujutsu Kaisen is I think a very cool little series.
Yeah.
Because it's also about the ability to use that negative energy, like fear and anger, and turn it into a strength, right? Because that's what cursed sorcerers are, right? They basically channel kind of negative energy from themselves and use it to do battle, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I do like the fact that rather than just demonizing negative human emotions and being like, well, if you're unhappy, then that's the enemy right there. It's your fear and your anger and your hatred. It's
Right.
rather than just making it black and white like that. They say, well, if you can reconcile those feelings in such a way that you can make it your strength to to help other people in that way, then that's what the cursed sorcerers represent, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's very much like you have to, be able to leverage those emotions, and
Yeah.
there's a large part of kind of like addressing inequality in the world that does stem from those feelings, and you do have to
Right.
harness those feelings sometimes, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna be pretty all the time, and it's not gonna just be
Right.
like, well, we should just do it because it makes us happy, right? It's like you should do it because you're fucking furious that they did this to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's more about like having an excess or indulging in those emotions that will lead you down the wrong path, and about how you do have to be using those emotions for the right purpose,
Mm-hmm.
or else you're just hurting people,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. It's funny because it reminds me of how in the 80s and 90s, if you look at American cinema in the 80s and 90s, most of the bad guys are just like corporate overlords, right? Like in Back to the Future, your enemy is Biff, who is a guy who is explicitly based off of Donald Trump. And in the Super Mario Brothers, the enemy is Bowser, who owns who's basically like a corporate overlord who is also explicitly based off of Donald Trump. And it's almost like
Yes?
it's almost like in the 80s and 90s, like we kind of realized that there was a problem, and then we just didn't do anything to fix it. And then now we look at the 80s and 90s movies and like, whoa, how did they predict this? How did they predict the things that are happening? And you're like, oh, it's because they were already happening and we just weren't paying attention. Read deeper into the media that you watch, please. I beg of you. I beg of you, just like a little bit. Right?
Consume.
Like just think a little bit about like why things are being made, right? Like
no.
Like maybe all
think.
of the manifestation of negative human emotion that's happening in these manga is a symbol that people in Japan are a little bit fucking fed up with the government.
I mean, it's a huge theme in like stuff like the Persona games too. Like the whole like shadows and stuff like that. And,
oh yeah. I mean, it's I think there's kind of a part of this that is like uniquely about uniquely stemming from like Japanese like sort of polite society, where you are kind of expected to be very polite to people even if you don't like them. So there's this kind of fear and sort of mistrust that happens when you can't know what somebody's like true intentions are,
right?
And I think that gets played up a lot in these shows, especially in like something like Jujutsu Kaisen, where they're like, basically they're just like, hey, are you sick of being nice? Do you just want to go ape shit? And some people are like, hell yeah, that sounds rad as hell. So there is definitely a part of it that is socially influenced by the expectations of society and the kind of walls that society builds around you, which is what Persona is about, right? Persona 5 is about kind of weaponizing the way that people see you, which I think is really cool, even though for some reason in a series about like marginalized people, that is to say teenagers without a lot of power, that none of them are queer, but hey, sigh. I don't have any excuses for that. That's just kind of a bummer, you know. Anyway, Jujutsu Kaisen is actually very, very cool. The animation is I've heard people complain about the animation for Jujutsu Kaisen because a lot of it is like based on like 3D modeling and like rotoscoping, and I think that's like kind of whatever, right?
I think it's fine that
right,
they do it like that.
Because like people complain about the compositing of the show, and I'm like, I think it's fine, honestly.
It's
like,
fine.
Hey, it's like, hey, whatever works, right?
Right, exactly. It's not, to me, it's not offensive, right?
It's not offensive. I would say, honestly, it even looks pretty good. Like,
right.
You're getting a pretty high quality sort of show, animated wise, for much less work than it would take to just like hard hand animate it, right? And like,
right.
For, you know, as sad as it is to say, right? Like, you just kind of have to settle for that, really.
Yeah, I mean, they're also producing it like during a pandemic, and we don't know what their work structure would have been like if it wasn't the case. So I think honestly, they're doing the best they can.
I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I think even the really heavily like 3D composited shots look pretty good.
I think even if it came out like, you know, during a normal work schedule or whatever for them, it would still be a good looking anime. Like
I would have nothing negative to say about it, really. Like the kind of like fight scenes, very good actually. They definitely feel very good to watch, especially the kind of like early and late ones, where they're like doing a lot of hand fighting. It looks really good. There's a lot of like continuous animation, which you know you can't really like scoff at because it is a lot of work no matter what. And as far as a show goes in how it looks, like a weekly produced show, you know, not every show is going to be a KyoAni show or a UFO table show. Like sometimes they just look like this, and honestly, it doesn't offend me in any way, right? Like I'm sure people had like lots of complaints when like, you know, they moved to primarily digitally animating things instead of hand animating them on like paper and pencil and like cells and stuff. But like honestly, I have no complaints about Jujutsu Kaisen's animation. I think it looks really good.
Yep.
Anyway, shall we talk about Golden Kamuy third season?
Yes.
Oh my god. So we obviously got an animation sort of upgrade this season. It looks a lot better.
Really? I couldn't tell. I thought that it was like pretty similar, but I don't.
I think it's pretty similar to the second season. Because I know that the first season looked really janky.
We had CG fire and bears.
Yeah, like CG fire, CG bears. And in contrast, seasons 2 and 3 look a lot better. Season 3, I think probably looks the best. I think something about the way that they have decided to. I think a lot of the still shots look better. I think to me, than they did in the first 2 seasons. I think that's why.
Okay.
Holy shit. The third season is so wild. Like, this is the point at which I had, so I caught up to the manga a while ago, probably sometime after the first season stopped airing.
Yeah.
So I was basically in the dark for the start of the third season, right? And oh my god, the stuff that happens. Whew, oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. I think Golden Kamuy is one of the most, I think it's one of the best written, like, on a macro level, kind of on a large structural level. It's one of the best stories that is serialized right now, because it is always so interesting to watch. You're like, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? It's such a good adventure show.
Yeah, it's, all of the twists and turns that happen during this season, like it starts off kind of like, you know, all right, like they're trucking along, they're, you know, one party is chasing the other party, but then it just ramps up and then it like explodes at the end.
Yeah. Well, like this is what I mean. Is like, I think the problem that a lot of shows run into, or a lot of series run into, especially when you get to around the length that that Golden Kamuy is it's very easy to fall into patterns, or to get formulaic, or to make things not really challenge the status quo. So like for instance, if this was a different series, it might have been that they like teamed up with these people, and then they just like continue to the end of the series, and like that's just their crew. But in Golden Kamuy, the relationships between the characters is always changing in a very interesting way, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool and interesting and dynamic to watch because you're never really sure who's going to betray and like who's going to ally and for what reasons, right? And obviously spoiler warning, spoiler warning. When you like look at the flashback sort of sequences, and like the guy who you thought was just like some random guy living in Russia was like the lieutenant. You're like,
oh my god, that was the craziest reveal. Even with all of the betrayal and like the death happening, that was the biggest reveal.
Yeah, that was like
was that, and then this quiet linguist, kind of gentle looking dude was the most evil person that we've come across so far in the show.
I mean, and then you see like kind of why he's like so like out there, because you're like, oh man, this is a lot. She got shot. No.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And then you have all the like the Ogata stuff, which is like,
oh my god.
it's so juicy because you're like, oh no, Ogata's like, he's only in it for himself, and he has sort of his own baggage about like why he acts the way he acts, and then like you see him at a standoff where he's like, come with me, Ashiripa, and she's like, no, you're like being weird and creepy. She's like, I will kill you, and he's just like, no, you won't kill me, or will you? Kill me, Ashiripa. Do it. Prove my point. And then she's like, no, I won't do it. And then Tsukimoto's like, Ashiripa. And she's like, wait, shit, what? And then the arrow goes into his eyeball, and you're like, oh! It's like, he's gonna die. It's like, shit, he's dead. And then Sugimoto's like, fuck no, the fuck you're not gonna die. And he's like, I'm gonna suck out the poison from your eyeball. And you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Because he doesn't want him tortured to be a murderer.
and then at the very end of the season, he speaks Russian, and you're like, what the fuck? Season 3 is so wild. Like, because here's the thing, right? Is that some shows I feel like peak really early. Like they'll have like a really exciting, like cool thing that happens like really early on, and then everything else after that is like really boring and status quo kind of like same old formula. Golden Kamuy is just always changing. There's always things happening, and there's always something like interesting that's just about to happen. And like you're always on the edge of your seat. It's a very well written show on a structural level.
Yeah.
Because like at its basis, right? It's not like things are happening around them. It's that things are happening because the characters are making them happen. It's a classic example of what happens when you write a story that stems from character relationships, right? And character relationships and motivations. Like part of this is having really strongly written characters, right? And it's you can tell because whenever the ostensibly the villains are are allied with the main characters, like with Ashiripa and Sugimoto, you're like kind of endeared to them. You like kind of Ogata's weird cat-like qualities, and you're rooting for him when he like counter snipes that like Russian sniper, and you're
that was so cool. Shit. That was such a cool battle.
I think that was one of the most interesting like firearm standoffs in any anime ever, right? Like because it's 100% a psychological sniper battle, and it was absolutely the coolest thing to see Ogata outwit this dude who is like a master sniper. You're like, hell yeah, get it. And then you're like, oh right, this guy shot Sugimoto. Fuck.
No, this guy was a traitor the whole time.
Oh shoot, he's a bad guy. No, he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. And I say that, but like everybody kind of exists in this like moral gray zone where you're not really sure if they're bad or good, because they're characters. They're complicated 3-dimensional characters with their own kind of quirks and behaviors and motivations, and like it's I love Golden Kamuy. It's so good. And I like that it's at its core kind of about this struggle over Ainu sovereignty and what it means to be like a marginalized people, a native sort of people in living underneath an imperial society, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there is obviously the potential for in the course of like kind of historical fiction for things to get like valorized a little bit, right? And I think Golden Kamuy does a pretty good job of avoiding this, right? You're mostly rooting for characters. So you're not like, yeah, Japan is the best, right? Because even when you're discussing when and flashing back to the visions of like the Russo-Japanese War, right? You don't get like oh yeah, these people are so cool, they're heroes. They're like, oh shit, war is hell, war sucks, dick.
Yeah, I do like the fact that at least so far it hasn't quite claimed sides in terms of like this side is absolutely good, because even the Ainu people, like, you see the crimes that Ashiba's father commits in order to gain their rights back, and you understand why he does it, because the Ainu people are suffering and he wants to help them, but he does some horrible things for it. It's really, really well done. The fact that they have this cultural through line throughout the whole series, and you kind of delight in the fact that you get to learn bits and pieces more and more each time that they introduce more things about their culture, and like little food facts, or the way that they address like the cold and stuff like that. Like, it's really nice downtime between all of the huge action set pieces.
Yeah. I completely agree. I really like that that this is one of the very rare sort of pieces of fiction that at all addresses the Ainu people, and at the same time it doesn't like, it's very matter of fact about it. It's like, these people live on this land, and this is how they do things, right? And it doesn't really, it doesn't feel like it has the same kind of like it doesn't have the same feel as like the depiction of Native Americans in like Western fiction, for instance, right?
Yeah,
in like Westerns, where like you're like, this is Lone Buffalo. He is the master tribesman of whatever. It's just like in Golden Kamuy, it's literally just, these are the Ainu people of this land. They live here.
Right.
These are their traditions. They will help you if you help them. They will not help you if you're a jerk, right?
Right.
As most people tend to be, right? And there's a lot of kind of like this like spiritual through line throughout the show that isn't quite explicit, but is very like kind of implied, where you have it this like the bad omens and the bone fortune telling. And though it's actually very cool, because you can use those as storytelling devices. You can use them to foreshadow events to come, right?
Yeah.
And because it's within the sort of realm of a fictional show, it works. And it's a very like cool thing that you get to do, and it kind of pays some homage to like the beliefs of these people that live on these lands, which is very cool. And I like when they go into Russia and they have like a Russian translator, and they're like just going around like speaking in Russian to people, and and like they meet the couple in the lighthouse, and they are they're just like, oh, are you like Japanese people? That's okay. You can stay in here so you don't like freeze to death out there, right? We just want our daughter back. We actually kind of hate the Russian government. Only bastards. And then it's a very like intricately woven story. And it's absolutely worth a watch if you want like a very well written like character adventure.
Yeah.
It's also just a very cool setting. Like the kind of like turn of the 20th century, the 19th to the 20th century, in Japan, where following the Russo-Japanese War, you have obviously like a westernizing Japan, right? And there's like an innate kind of tension there. You have an imperial Japan that's attempting to claim land by fighting with Russia, a country that is way fucking bigger than Japan. And if you've actually ever read about the Russo-Japanese War, it's kind of wild just how much the Russians underestimated like Japan, because Russia got decimated in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, we get to see that from the perspective of the soldiers on the ground, from Sugimoto's perspective, and his best friend dies in the war, and you're like, yeah, this ain't so Gucci in it. You can see like Ogata's best friend die in the war, and he's just like, well, I guess it's time to be a bastard all the time. Time to cause problems on purpose. But yeah, all of that kind of stuff is contained within Golden Kamuy. I think the like Taisho Meiji era is like it's a very interesting period in Japan.
Oh, it's fascinating.
I think any period of great social change in any kind of country is a very cool thing. Well, that's why that's why prohibition fiction is so cool in the United States, because you have all of this kind of like tension surrounding like, you know, the government regulating sort of a thing that has traditionally been held to be, you know, I would say quite valuable to like all of human history, right? And saying like this is illegal now, and what kind of social ramifications that has. And you have like you know, the history of like bootlegging and how that interacts, like bootlegging and speakeasies, and how that interacts with kind of like the history of immigrants and marginalized people. And it's all a very cool thing, right? So I think any period of great social changes is a very cool period to set something, and this is one of those things where like the Meiji era is very cool in Japan. I think it's very cool to see historical figures like Hijikata Toshizo, but they're like, but what if he survived? So you kind of have this through line to an older era of Japan, and like that's the kind of thing, right? Is that ideologically all these people kind of represent something where you know, you have the lieutenant who is very upsetty for a lot of reasons and kind of just wants to wreck a lot of chaos. You have Hijikata Toshizo, who is like kind of yearning for the old days of the samurai period of Japan. This kind of like idealized version of the samurai period. You know, you have Wilk and Ko, who want to end the sort of Japanese occupation entirely and make a country for the Ainu. And then you have like people like Sugimoto and Ogata who just kind of like want money because they need money to do things.
Yes.
And they kind of represent these like very normal people.
Yes.
Albeit in slightly different ways. You know, Sugimoto wants to help people. Ogata just wants to not have to ever do anything ever again. Which, I mean, after what he's been through, I understand, but like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, Golden Kamuy third season, very, very good. This show only keeps getting better, so I highly recommend jumping in if you haven't already.
Yeah, I hope they make a fourth season. That would be
I hope so too. I might go back and read the manga at some point. It's very exciting. Let us talk about Taisou Zamurai. So this is a very different show than I thought it would be.
Yeah, same. It ended up being a lot goofier than I thought it would be. Right? I thought it would be
same.
Like a heartfelt story about this guy, this gymnast who's getting on in years but still wants to, you know, to make it, essentially.
I thought we would really get like a kind of like a Rocky sort of like storyline where it's about like how this guy is able to succeed despite the fact that he's had so many blunders. But it's actually kind of a lot different of a show than that. Because it's not about like pure determination and grit. It's a lot about like interestingly, I think it's a lot about like scars and healing and the attitude with which you treat yourself and how you should take care of yourself.
Mm.
Because like his main problem, even when he was like in his like prime, was the fact that he just like never took a day off, which is, you know, not how your body works.
Right.
You need to take rest days if you're exercising or doing any kind of strenuous activity so that your body can rebuild itself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like is the through line for the whole show, where it's basically like you need to take care of yourself, and you need to be able to take care of yourself so that you can do things for yourself and do things for other people. And like it's the only way to succeed is through having an adequate amount of rest, which is very interesting. It's not necessarily the core premise, I would say, for most sort of what you would consider like sports anime. But like pretty much every character has an arc kind of pertaining to this, right? You have the main character, obviously. You have Jutaru, who is who has never taken a day off in his life and has really hurt himself in the process. And his process is a process of healing, and he's becoming better at gymnastic. His becoming better at gymnastics is also a process of healing, and a process of rehabilitation, and like physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Then you have like Leo's kind of storyline about how he has been born with the talent to be like the world's best ballerina, but not really the drive to. He doesn't really see a point to. He doesn't want to. But he kind of finds meaning in doing that anyway through watching Joe do gymnastics, even after his body isn't really capable of it anymore, or at the very least is not in his prime. And so you have it's a very mature show, but not necessarily in a way that makes it like better than other sports anime, I would say. Because I think like something like Run with what was it? Run with the Wind? Was that the show that was like Haikyuu but running?
Yeah.
That show I think is like Taisou Zamurai but a lot better. To be perfectly honest.
I can see what you mean. Like the general vibe of it, The
vibe of it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, because Taisou Zamurai, I feel like, doesn't really know where it wants to focus. I think so. It ends up feeling a little bit messy because a lot of it, as you said, is very kind of funny and comedic and like lighthearted. Well, at the same time, trying to make a point about like sports, which is interesting. It can kind of feel a little muddied sometimes, right?
Yeah, it felt like they very intentionally made it I want to say like a softer show compared to most sports anime. Like they didn't want it necessarily to just be about focusing on being the best at the sport. They wanted it to be about like familial ties and all the stuff surrounding the sport, right?
Right.
And I'm not sure if it was because of like a lack of focus, but it didn't really. I can't say that it really moved me. You know, if you're gonna go with the emotional approach, then it maybe it should be moving, right? Even shows that really do focus on the sports, like Haikyuu or whatever, I feel like they emotionally impact me more than this show did. Maybe that's a little harsh for the kind of show that it is, but yeah.
Okay, so sorry, excuse me. I think generally I agree. Okay. I will say, as far as an emotional core goes, there is one. It just doesn't really land as much as it could have, and I don't know if that was the I don't know if that was the intention. But it feels like it should be one way or the other, right? It should be more comical or it should be more impactful. Or if it's gonna try to juggle both, it has to do both a little harder. It's a very like it's a very like mellow kind of mundane show.
Right.
And I think some people might like that, right?
Sure.
to me, it doesn't feel like it has any like teeth, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Which again, I think some people will like, because it is a slow, little bit. Sorry, it's a show about kind of like slow healing, and I
Yeah.
guess you could sort of intuit that through the sort of like everyday shenanigans that happen in this household. But it doesn't really feel like a lot is ever really happening, even kind of progression wise within the characters.
Sure. Yeah.
It is a show that I had no problems watching, but did not particularly grab me, right?
Yes, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Because you're like, he did the gymnastics, good, woohoo, right? You're like, yeah, good for you. It is like, this is one of those shows that I think is a solidly good show, but it's not bad or excellent.
Yes. Yeah, it's very middle of the road for me, and it is like you said, it didn't really grab me. And I'm not saying that it needed to necessarily be more dramatic, right? Like it needed to be super hilarious or super like intense or whatever. Even a show that has a very like soft approach or a mellow approach feels deliberate, and when it does, it feels you feel absorbed in it.
Yeah,
and with this one, it doesn't. You still feel like kind of like a distant observer of what's happening. You don't feel engrossed in it.
I think you're right. It just feels like there's like a kind of a lack of intention. You know, it's like kind of a lack of any personal attachment to sort of anything that's happening.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I definitely agree. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not a badly done show in any sense of the word, aside from like the existence of that stupid bird.
Oh yeah, that bird is awful, terrible.
Yeah, okay. So the bird just feels like a huge distraction.
Okay, no, you're right. If the bird was not in this show, it might have been better. It might have been a lot better, actually.
Better show. Because it felt like just a representation of the comedic aspect that they're trying to force in, rather than kind of like letting the comedy just play out organically.
Yeah, it's a show that was like kind of cute, but also like definitely overstayed its welcome when it introduced the bird. You're like, why is this here?
Yeah.
This is completely taking me out of the entire experience.
It sure it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's fine. It is an easy watch if you just want something to put on in the background. But I wouldn't. It's not something that I would enjoy like paying complete and full attention to the whole time, because it didn't really have much to hold my full attention.
Yeah, I concur. That Taisou Zamurai, it's an okay show.
It's fine.
About like a family and a guy. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the characters are likable enough, and there's like kind of fun stuff that happens.
Yeah, I like the way that the characters were drawn.
Yeah, the art style is very cool.
Yeah, it is nice. Yep.
Okay, well, let's talk about the two things that you watched that I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, you watched the other. Okay, so you watched the newest Haikyuu season, but I have read the manga, so I haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
Okay. Yeah. So the second season, it did start out kind of rough because pandemic scheduling, but then the rest of the season was just like, was quite good. Like, you wouldn't be able to differentiate it from any of the other seasons in terms of quality. There is one particular episode in this season that I felt like stood out way and above, like beyond the rest. And it felt like the emotional climax of the season. And you can tell, like, as soon as the episode starts, that it feels a little bit different, and then just from beginning to end, it was really, really tightly written.
Which match is it?
It's forgot the name of the team.
because I've kind of forgotten where the where I left off in the anime.
Inarizaki High School. It's with the twin Mia brothers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So, I mean, otherwise, like the story is just amazing.
Yeah, I will say it's very funny how popular the Mia brothers become as like characters. Like
they're fun. They're pretty fun at the end.
They're fun characters. But they they show up a lot more.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, they in the beginning you understand why they're set up as the antagonists because they're kind of like, but towards the end you become fond of their dynamic and you're like, all right, I can get behind this. They're not total douchebags. They just kind of come off that way because they really like the sport and they're very competitive. And yeah, no, it was a wonderful season. You really kind of get you really start to see, especially Hinata, come into his own, which is, he's the emotional core of the whole show or whatever. So
this is we really are entering the like high gear of Haikyuu. Because having read the manga, oh boy, there is some stuff coming.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh boy. I cannot wait. I will probably go back and watch the latest season.
Oh, definitely. I highly recommend.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about Osomatsu-san?
Yeah. So I wasn't able to talk about it last time because I didn't watch any of it, but this time I've watched an episode of it. And it's
an episode. You know what? We take those.
It's it was funny. The first episode, which is what you would want from it. They make quite a few Evangelion references, which
good.
I love. Yes. A lot of references to a lot of other currently popular shows like Demon Slayer. They had a Demon Slayer reference in there as well. And at some point in the episode, they had all of the voice actors for the boys appear in the show as anime characters, but like animated versions of themselves.
Oh my god.
it was pretty funny. I like that bit the most, I think.
Okay. That was didn't they do I feel like they did something very similar for the first episode of the second season.
Did they? I don't remember.
Or maybe it was the first episode. I don't remember. Anyway, that's pretty funny. I should go back and watch it. I enjoyed the first season, but I haven't really bothered to watch the second or third yet.
Yeah, I when the mood strikes me, I think I'll finish the rest of this season as well. Yeah, second season was fun too.
Nice. That's good. It's good.
Yeah. I think that's it, right?
I believe so. I mean, I could probably sit here and talk about all the manga that I read, but I won't. So, I mean, we have a pretty busy, I would say, winter schedule ahead of us. So, that'll be interesting. Stay tuned for that. It looks like a lot of the winter stuff is going to be like sequels, but they're like big sequels, right?
They're big sequels. Yes.
Like obviously we have the second season of Dr. Stone, which is going to be great. We have the continuation of Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like there's some other big stuff that's the final season of Attack on Titan, which we're not going to be watching because we haven't watched the previous ones, but that's a huge one. But like 2021 is winter 2021 is a stacked season in terms of sequels.
Yeah.
There's like maybe like 3 original works that we're interested in, but like most of them are sequels.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd say the biggest one I'm interested in is Promised Neverland. That's
right, that was the
peak of the peak.
I was like, there's another huge one that I'm missing. Yeah. Promised Neverland for sure. We've watched an episode of the second season, and
it's already we already in it.
we in it now, Renu. Yeah, very very much looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good season.
Yeah.
Gonna be a good season of stuff that we're pretty much already acquainted with, which is gonna be interesting because I feel like whenever we talk about sequels, we usually just like kind of gloss over it. Like, I mean,
It's more of the thing.
Right, there's not a lot to say about this unless you've already seen the other two. So like, what's the point really? Unless there's something like really ground shattering that happens when you're like, no.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
We were able to pop off about Golden Kamuy third season, so.
Oh yeah, Golden Kamuy third season was fucking wild though. So we'll see. That sampler episode will be interesting.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. I believe that is the end of everything we have to talk about, though. We have, I guess, in terms of, whatever. We'll talk about it as we wrap up. So, what order do we do this again? Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet?
I'm Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at swandrawn. I'm making my way through commissions because winter is apparently just commission season, and that's fine by me. I love it. I guess aside from that, I'm still playing Monster Hunter World. I don't think that game will ever stop for me. And Animal Crossing.
Yes, the never-ending games.
Yes, all these eternal games. But yeah, if you wanna hang out, we can chat and do art stuff together. Come over to my Friday streams. I stream every Friday evening.
Very nice.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you're always streaming during my D&D time, so I can never hop in.
That's all right. You know what? I appreciate you when you do pop by anyway. And you and I are, I'm assuming, resuming Ace Attorney at some point.
Correct. We are resuming this Saturday if that works for you. Which is funny because that will have aired by the time this episode goes up. But anyway.
Well, yes. Soupy and I stream Ace Attorney together on their channel, Literal Soup.
We do. It's super fun.
Yeah, every Saturday evening. Yeah.
Well,
speaking of, where can we find you?
You can find me all the places at Literal Soup. That is Twitter and Twitch primarily. You can see me play and suffer my brains out in Dark Souls, tackling the hardest bosses just in the series, just over and over again until the blood runs down my forehead. You can every Saturday at I believe. What time is it? It's been so long that I've forgotten. It's like 8 to 10 PST, I think.
Yes, it's 10 and 10 CST for me.
Okay, yeah, 10 CST for you. So we play Ace Attorney for about 2 or so hours. Depends on how long the cases go and how long Renu feels like staying awake. But yeah, if you're interested, of course, you're free to join us for that. I absolutely love when we play Ace Attorney together. Mostly because I love Ace Attorney, but I also like getting to hang out with you. That's always very nice. It's very fun to get to voice the characters together.
Yes.
Which, if I was doing the Ace Attorney alone, I would lose my voice in approximately an hour.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, it very much makes it possible that you're there. Other than that, I'm on stuff. You can go to my website at literalsoup.com, I think is the
You have
URL.
a website now?
Well, I've had a website, but it's been a WordPress site. But I finally just went out and purchased the domain for literalsoup.com. So you can go there, and then that's where I host all my writing stuff, and
that's awesome.
Other than that, I've been continuing on trucking on along with my RPG work. If you're interested, my game Pyre Waltz Love is coming again. It is a game. It's a tabletop game about simulating hot-blooded mech rivalry. So like in a mecha show, you have two people who definitely want to bang, but are enemies, and they have to fight each other.
Yes.
Come on,
let's go.
Yeah, that's the premise for the game. You can find that game in the Ultimate Micro RPG collection. I'll link it in the description stuff. But
that's awesome. I love it.
It is a book that is out there that you can purchase and has a lot of cool games in it by a lot of cool indie RPG developers.
Nice.
It is full of, I think there's like 40 micro games in it, and it's very, very cool. If you're somebody who has, interest in tabletop games or has, played stuff like D&D but has never really played anything else, I highly recommend picking up the book, because if you do, you got like 40 different games that you can try with varying amounts of people. So like maybe if you play D&D every week and you, for instance, have a week where like 3 people don't show up, you can play like a 3-player micro RPG, and it's very cool. It's like I have a copy of the book. I got a contributor copy of the book. It's very cool. You can the pages are all perforated, so you can actually just tear them out.
Whoa.
And I think my game is it's like somewhere in there. I didn't have to do any of the layout stuff myself, but I wrote all the words for it and they laid it out for me, which was very nice and cool. Very cool project to work on, and I'm very glad that that game is out there. Yeah, if you have any interest whatsoever in that game, definitely pick up that book. I would be honored. I would be honored if you played this game. If you do play the game, please tell me about it, because I love hearing about people playing the game.
That's very cool.
Just delicious, tasty. Anyway, that's everything I've been up to. So time for our wrap up. So some announcements. Well, we have the postcards ready, and I think we have a pretty good schedule for postcards, I think. So we're basically going to do one a year. And as long as you have at any point in the year signed up for the postcard tier, we will send you a postcard. So if you feel like you want to sign up for like 1 month for the postcard tier, and then you're like, all right, cool, I got my postcard tier, rest of the year is the normal amount, that is perfectly fine, and we love and respect you. So
yes, absolutely. And don't feel obligated.
Yeah, we have a blast sending out these postcards. I will post a picture of what the front of it looks like for all you wonderful people who are curious. And yeah, if you sign up for that tier at any point in the year, you will get a postcard. We will only send out one a year, because God knows it's already a lot of work to get one postcard. I can't imagine how people do this all the time.
Yeah, if I had it in me and more time, I guess, then I would send out more. So I will promise a minimum of 1 per year.
Okay, a minimum of 1 per year.
If I'm able to, then I would like to make more designs, but it's just
No, it's a lot of work. Renu does all the art and then posts the prints the postcards, and they're on these like this year they're on really nice paper. They're on like postcard like photograph paper. Oh, it feels so good. The art is, as always, super lovely. And as an added bonus, we write like a little hand message for you on the back of it. So, look forward to that. As always, you can, of course, come hang out in our Discord server, which I will leave a link to, but I think there's also a link to it on our Twitter, maybe. I'll have to double check that.
I think it's definitely on our Patreon.
It's definitely on our Patreon, but like absolutely feel free to come by and chat with us, either about the podcast episodes that we did, or just in general, or you can just like look at all the links that I post without any context in our no context channel. Listen, that's one of my favorite channels that I've made. There's only like 3 channels in the server, but that channel is great. Anyway, so that's it for the wrap up stuff, I suppose. All the bookkeeping, I think. And on that note, our opening is by Scotty Network, and our ending is by Takumakara. So thank you very much to those people. And the patrons we are thanking this week are Evan, Frostfall, Cheru, Magpie Mirror Test, Sean, Undead Uncanny, Claire, and Dylan. Thank you so much for your contributions to the podcast. You keep us paying Funimation for their just terrible website for their god awful website that just never fucking works. But we require it anyway so that we can watch animation without having to do the capital P piracy.
Yeah, support the anime studio.
Support the anime
whatever
industry.
Cut that they get out of the money.
Etc. etc. Anyway. Thank you so much to our patrons. We really super appreciate the support.
Yes.
But we also appreciate everybody who listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Here's to, I suppose, because this is technically the first podcast episode of the year, which kind of steals the thunder of the January episode, but I mean, it's whatever. That's just how it be. It really did just be like that. But yeah, it's the first episode of the of 2021. And we're already off to an amazing sort of exciting start to the year with the potential end of American democracy. Who's to say what might happen in the next couple days? I really am not looking forward to it, to be honest. It is a long road to January 21st. But as always, thank you for listening, and here's to a new year, and thank you for sticking with us. And we've been here for 3 years. We will be here probably for at least 3 more. So
that would be so fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I want the podcast to eventually become half of the time that we have known each other.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
And here we are in the retirement home, celebrating 60 years of the Absolute Territory podcast. Can you believe that? People don't even know what Evangelion is anymore. Cyber Anno has just put out the 20th Shin Godzilla film. Good for him. Anyway, thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
See you next time.
また明日ね。